Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gauntlet Community Open Weekend. This is an open online mini convention run by the Gauntlet online role-playing gaming community. My name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him. I will be the game master for Old School Essentials. The module we are running is Mortzengersturm, the Mad Manticore of the Prismatic Peak. A little bit about myself. I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for a long time. I cut my teeth on the Tom Moldvay edition of the D&D basic set back in the early 1980s. I played a lot of D&D in the 80s. I played mostly GURPS in the 90s. In the aughts, we switched over to D&D 3rd edition. I played a lot of D&D 3rd edition and also Pathfinder. Into about like 2014, 2015, when my Pathfinder group fell apart and I joined this group that was playing this new game I'd never heard of called Dungeon World. And that was my first exposure to story gaming. And it just kind of opened my brain to a whole new way of playing. So mostly since then, I've been mostly for the past like eight-ish years, I've mostly been in the story game pool. But I've also been exploring old school OSR gaming. And so my general area of interest right now is kind of where OSR gaming and story gaming intersect. So this game is Old School Essentials. Old School Essentials is a retro clone of the 1981 Tom Moldvay edition of the D&D basic set. We're going to be using the advanced fantasy rules, which incorporates some new rules into like Tom Moldvay's the BX edition that includes some elements from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. So a couple of things that set OSE apart from, I'm going to table that. Let's go around and do some more and do our actual introductions. I'll talk about the game afterwards. Let's go clockwise around the table. So, PJC, would you please introduce yourself?
I'm PJC, or Paolo, and I've been actively gaming since 4th Ed D&D, and as soon as I started getting into the Powered by the Apocalypse games, like I went into a hard narrativist like story game direction, but I have dipped my toes into like OSR adjacent systems like Troika and Knave, so I am somewhat familiar. But this is the first time doing something that's actually within OSE, and like I've dabbled in writing my own like self-contained like one-pager story games, but nothing that's sort of like broken through yet. So still very much within hobbyist territory as far as that goes. And this is my second experience gaming with a Gauntlet.
Fantastic. Glad to have you. Do you prefer to be called PJC or Paolo or?
Yeah, just Paolo is fine.
Paolo? Okay. I'm going to change your name display on the Zoom meeting. Sure. just so I remember. Just want to call people the way they want to be called.
Sure. No problem.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, welcome. I hope this is I hope you have fun here. Daniel, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Daniel. I am from Croatia. My pronouns are he, him. I've been playing since the 90s, since the time of AD&D, 2nd edition, and then I played some GURPS in 3rd edition, but when I discovered Apocalypse World and PBTA games, then the story games and those kind of games became my jam. But also, I am a really big fan of OSR games. I've played a lot of them. I've ran a lot of them, including OSC. I have this book to prove it. And so it's this. I think this intersection between story games and old school games is really my jam. So I'm really looking forward to this game.
Fantastic. Glad to have you. I'm going to step off camera for just a moment to actually get my rule books because I don't have them on my desk. While I'm doing that, Anya, would you please introduce yourself?
You're on mute. You're muted.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Anya. I started playing back in 3.5 and I hated the game. So for the longest time, I just played GM-less games. And then a few years ago, I also read Apocalypse World, and it totally changed my mind about what GM games could be. And since then, I've been trying a lot of them. In the past, I don't know, like 6 months, I got a bit into OSR. In fact, a lot of it had to do with Mike. And so I'm playing today.
Well, glad to have you aboard, Anya. Back earlier this year, I ran a quarterly series of Old School Essentials using the 1981 AD&D A series against the Slavers, and we got most of the way through that before the series ended. Anyway, glad to have you aboard, Anya. This is I was very glad to see you sign up. Sasha, would you please introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Sasha. I'm from Toronto. My pronouns are he, him. I've been gaming for about 5 or 6 years now. And this will be my first OSR game.
Well, fantastic. Glad to have everyone aboard. So one thing the way I usually like to start off new games is to do a little quick exercise that's called CATS. That stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. It's a way that it's sort of like an elevator pitch of the game to make sure that we are all actually here to play the same game. So the concept of this game is to have a humorous but deadly OSR romp. This adventure is kind of inspired by cartoons of the 1970s and 80s. Actually, in the intro blurb of the module, it kind of says something along the lines of, imagine a Rankin Bass holiday special that could end in a TPK. So this game is, so the aim of this is to have fun playing through a cartoon-inspired dungeon using old school rules. The tone of this adventure, it's going to be a little different from most OSR games. So this game is going to be campy. It's full of horny humor, cartoonish hijinks, and I'm going for a PG rating for violence. So the subject matter of this game is, well, basically you are going to visit a mad wizard, ostensibly to retrieve a magical artifact that he has stolen. You're going to be going under sort of false pretenses to infiltrate. Some of the subject matters, some of the potential content warnings of this game include monster hybrids, animals in captivity, egotism, and a mustache-twirling villain. Any questions about concept, aim, tone, and subject matter before we continue?
All clear.
Okay, awesome. So for technology, we are using Roll20, and I do see 1, 2, 3. Okay, it looks like everyone's in the Roll20. Fantastic. We're using Zoom instead of Roll20's AV because I find Roll20's AV to be kind of janky, and I find Zoom to be just a lot more easier to use. So looks like everyone is, but please make sure that you have your video and microphone on Roll20 turned off. So next thing I'd like to talk about is emotional safety at the gaming table. In Roll20, under the journal, there is a link to our safety tools sheet. I'd also included a link to that in the introductory document that I sent everyone via email before the start of the game. If everyone could hop over to that, our safety tools sheet. If you don't have that, I'm happy to pop that into the chat window here in Zoom. And is everyone on our safety tool, our Mortzengersturm safety tools document? Okay, cool. So when we play a role-playing game, we're putting our emotions at stake. With this, sometimes, you know, when you're playing a game, sometimes your brain doesn't always make the disconnect that the emotions your character feeling are not the same as the emotions that you personally are feeling. Also, each of us brings a different set of life experiences. What might be perfectly okay for you to, like some subjects that are perfectly okay for you to discuss, I might have a big problem with and not want to go there. Because we're a bunch of strangers or near strangers that are getting together over the internet to play a game, and the purpose of the game is to have fun. And each of us individually is more important than this game that we are playing. Safety tools are a way that it doesn't eliminate the emotional danger, but it puts some bounds around things and gives us a framework to talk about and address things that may come up in the game. And when engaged with in good faith, they can be very, very helpful to avoid hurt feelings and to avoid going to places where you just didn't want to go. We are taking a layered approach with safety. We'll be using 3 different formal safety tools, and I'm going to talk about them real briefly. So the first one is called Open Door. Open Door is about our immediate personal comfort. And all that means is each of us is free to come and go from this game as we please. Anyone can call a break at any time for any reason. Anyone can step away from the game for any reason. And also, everyone has the power to say that, you know what, this game isn't really what I thought it was going to be. I'm going to resign. To which we say, cool, sorry it wasn't the game for you. I hope we get to play something different in the future. That is Open Door in a nutshell. Anyone can come and go as they please. Any question on Open Door before we move on? Okay, the second tool we're going to be using is called Lines and Veils. This is a tool that was invented in the late aughts by RPG designer Ron Edwards for his game Sorcerer. Lines and Veils allows us to call ahead to point out different subject matters that we just don't want. We either don't want to engage with at all, or we only want to engage with under narrow circumstances. If a subject is lined, that means we are not going to engage with it in this game at all. I won't bring it up. You other players won't bring it up. If that subject if we're running a printed module like we are, and that subject was going to be in the module, I will write around it and not introduce it. So if it's lined, we're not going to see it. We're not going to deal with it. It's just not going to be there. If a subject is veiled, that means we may acknowledge that it happens in the game. We may see signs that it has happened in the game. We may hear reports of it happening from other characters in the game, but it is not. But a veiled subject is not going to happen on camera, and it is not going to happen to one of the player characters. Finally, there's a third category that's been tacked on to Lines and Veils called Ask First, and those indicate subject matters that you may be interested in engaging with in some circumstances and maybe not in others. If a subject is asked first, before we introduce that subject, we'll have a brief out-of-character discussion to see whether this is something we want to engage with or not. On the sheet, I have a number of lines and veils that are frequently, or subjects that are frequently lined or veiled. I'm going to ask you to anonymously check off anything that you don't want to engage with or engage with under whatever parameters. If something is, if you want to upgrade something, if you want to make something a harder line, so if someone else has hit a veil and you want to make it a line, please make it a line and it becomes a line. I'm also now going to pause the recording so that we can talk about these, but this is something, I don't want to, if we have any questions about lines and veils, we want to talk about that off camera. So I'm going to pause the recording right now. Okay, we have established some lines and veils. One note about lines and veils, this is a living document. If things come up in the game or you think of things that you hadn't thought of before, we can always go back and add some or make changes. Any questions about lines and veils before we move on? Hearing none.
I'm good to go.
Awesome. So the third tool we are going to use is called the X card. So the X card is a reactive safety tool that we can use when things happen during the game that we need to call out. So when you engage the X card, you're basically saying that it's time to pause the game and we need to have a discussion about it. Anytime if something happens in the game that makes you uncomfortable, you can say the phrase X card. If you're on camera, you can make an X figure with your hands. If you're not, say X card. You can type it in either of the chat windows, either the Roll20 or the Zoom meeting. I have them both open, but verbal is probably the fastest way to get us to get it to our attention. When you invoke the X card, we're going to pause the game and we're going to have an out of character discussion to figure out what we need to change. You don't need to tell us why, but we do need to know what it is that you don't want to engage with. You can X card anything that is making you feel uncomfortable. That can be a situation that's happening in the game. Don't want to engage with this. It could be something like, I've introduced an NPC that happens to be the name of like the bully that used to beat you up when you were in 7th grade and you hate that name. You know what? This NPC doesn't exist. We can change that person's name. You can also use the X card to call out behavior that's happening out of game. For example, if someone's consistently getting your name wrong, or if someone is talking over you, or if someone is like telling you how to play your character, invoke the X card. We'll have an out of character discussion to, because we're all adults here, we'll figure out, we'll have a discussion and we'll call out that behavior and it'll stop. One other thing I like to call out about the X card is if something happens in the game and you didn't really like it, but it wasn't that big a deal, so you decided to plow through it, and it happens again. It is 100% perfectly okay to X card the second or third or fourth or whatever introduction of something that you don't like. Just because you let it slide the first time or the first 2 times doesn't mean you can't X card it later. I do like to call that out. That is the X card in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions about the X card? Third, one other thing I do want to talk about, and it's not exactly a safety tool, but this is the appropriate time to talk about it. If for some reason something happens to me, whether I look concernedly to my left, take off my headset and walk off camera, or I suddenly freeze and the meeting ends or something like that, that means something might have happened to me in real life. If for whatever reason I freeze and don't come back, or the meeting ends, or I step off camera and don't come back without explanation, and I don't come back for 10 minutes, assume the game is over and take the rest of your day. Doesn't happen very often. I can't say that's never happened. I have occasionally lost electricity or lost internet connectivity during a game, and it didn't come back for 10 minutes. And it's a drag, but it happens. Doesn't happen very often, but it's kind of like when you're in college and the professor doesn't show for the first 10 minutes of class. The unspoken rule is, well, if the professor doesn't show for 10 minutes, the class is over. Yeah, that's kind of the rule we're going to invoke here. Any questions before we proceed? Awesome.
No, all clear. Fantastic.
Okay, so let's go to Roll20 and let's talk about our I'm going to talk very briefly about Old School Essentials for those who haven't played before. This is a retro clone. Old School Essentials is a reproduction of the 1981 edition of the Tom Moldvay Basic Expert D&D set. So it uses character classes. The original BX also had basically used the character race as character class. So your character class could be dwarf. Your character class could be halfling. So if you were, fighters and clerics and thieves were assumed to be human in the rules. If you wanted to play an elf or a dwarf or a halfling, that was a separate character class. Later editions of the game, primarily Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, separated the class from race, and more recent editions have gotten rid of the word race for character species, but we're using an older game, so we're kind of looking at the older terms that were used. So some of our characters will have use race as class, particularly the character Minmaximus the Mighty is a dwarf, and he is a dwarf. The demi-human race, he's also the dwarf, the character class. I think he's the only one that falls under that category. But it's an early version of D&D. So yeah, you're going to roll a D20 to determine. There's basically two kinds of rolls. There's basically three kinds of rolls in this game where you're using a D20. There's the hit roll, where again you want to roll high. This uses descending armor class, unlike later editions. So the lower the number of your armor class, the better it is. So an unarmored human is armor class, an unarmored person is armor class 9. If you're wearing leather armor, that's armor class 7. If you're wearing chainmail, that's armor class 5. Plate mail is armor class 3. Shield lowers your armor class by one step. And your dexterity lowers your armor class. Your character has a stat called a THAC0, which stands for 2-hit armor class 0. So again, so if you roll that number on a D20, you've hit armor class 0. And then you can like back calculate that. One nice thing about the old school essentials character sheet for Roll20 is it does the calculations for you. So when you roll a hit, it'll tell you what armor class you hit. And again, weapon damage does weapon damage. The way I do critical hits in this game, this is a house rule. The rules don't have it. If you roll a natural 20, it's an automatic hit regardless of the armor class of your opponent, and your weapon does maximum damage on the damage die. So don't roll damage, it just does. So if you're using a sword that does 1d8 damage and you roll a natural 20, it's an automatic hit, and you don't roll the damage. It does 1d8 plus whatever your modifiers are. Characters have saving throws. Depending on the effect, the module will say, save versus ones or save versus spells. Again, you want to roll high. You have a score, and you need to meet or beat your saving throw score. If you succeed, you have saved. If you've not, you have not saved. Finally, ability checks work in old school essentials. This game doesn't have skills. Instead of skills, if you're trying to like jump over a chasm or do something super clever, I may call for an ability check. And the way that works is you roll a d20. You want to roll your ability score or lower. So if you have a 16 dexterity and I ask you to make a dexterity check, you want to roll a 16 or lower on the d20. So if you roll over that, so if you roll a 17, that's a fail. If you've played basically any game with hit points work pretty much the same way. Yeah, that's kind of all I see in a nutshell. Any questions on the? We'll if rules questions come up, we'll figure them out. This is kind of a rules. One other ethos about old school gaming is generally you want to try to stack the odds in your favor by using the environment, by using by being clever. And Anya just pointed out in chat that some of the characters have settings. Armor class is ascending armor class. That may be the case. That may mean I neglected to set the proper settings. So if anyone has, if ever anyone looks at a character sheet and it says ascending character class, ascending armor class, we should change that to descending. So yeah, that might have been just me failing to hit a box. Cool. Thank you for pointing that out. Any questions on the rules before we go on? Again, if anything comes up in game, we'll do our best to explain it. And again, we are using the advanced fantasy rules, which throws a little bit more complexity, but it's fully compatible with the classic fantasy rules.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, so there are 8 pregens that we have for the. There are 8 pre-generated characters. Does anyone have? And I'll just briefly describe them. So we have Astra, who is the space dwarf. The space bard. We have Brother Mudwort, who is a frogling cleric. We have Inaquick, who is a human thief. We have Minmaximus the Mighty, who is a dwarf. We have Moonflower, who is an elf ranger. We have Sir Klinger, who is a knight. One thing about Sir Clanger is he is riding his trusty warhorse. Blanking on his warhorse's name, pulling it up. Sir Clanger rides Tumult, his trusty warhorse. We've got Wolf Howlin, who's a barbarian. I will one note about the barbarian class in Old School Essentials: they don't have a rage ability, although I think he's got a magic item that gives him something like a rage ability. And we have Zabra Kadabra, who is a magic user, i.e., which is what OSE calls a wizard. Anyone have any of these characters like call out to people?
I like Astra and Minmaximus the Mighty because he's called Minmaximus.
I dig Brother Mudwort.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like the concept for Zabra. I'll go with Zabra if no one else is calling dibs on her.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I'll just take the thief then in a quick.
Okay.
If that's still available, yes. Okay. Yep. Great.
Okay, so Paolo, you want to take Zabra?
Yep.
Okay. Edited by. Can be edited and controlled by Paolo. Save changes. Sasha, you said you wanted Brother Mudwort?
Yep.
Okay. To Sasha. And Daniel, you said you wanted in a quick.
Yep.
And Anya, you have which of the two you are most interested do you wish to play? And you're muted.
I think I'm gonna go for Minmaximus, so we have a bit of punch.
Fantastic.
In that case, can I switch to Astra then?
Sure. Let's see. Astra. I'm sorry, who's taking Astra?
Sasha.
Sasha, okay. So you've got Zabra. So Paolo, you're taking Zabra. I'm going to adjust your name. So I'm going to rename your Zoom so I remember this. So
Sure.
Paolo, you are Zabra. Sasha, you say you are taking Astra.
Yep.
And Daniel and Anya have okay, cool. And I am just gonna hide the other ones. Take off Mudwort. I'm gonna take off Moonflower. take off Sir Clanger. And we're going to take off Wolf, just so that things aren't so cluttered in everyone's views. Okay, so we have our party of adventurers. I'm going to say everyone can please add 2 potions of healing to your inventory, especially since we don't have a cleric. One thing that's kind of non-OSR-ish about this game is I pretty much, so these are, this adventure was originally written for D&D 5e, so I back converted it down to old school essentials. So one thing that a lot of old school games do is an emphasis on inventory and keeping track of your stuff. And you'll notice your equipment lists seem kind of light. I've noted your weapons, your armor, and any interesting gear you might have. Let's just assume for the sake of argument that you have like normal adventuring gear. If it makes sense for a character of your class to have a thing, we'll just assume you have it. Okay. If you want to have something weird or esoteric, we'll just kind of figure it out in play. If it like, I'm going to let rule of cool prevail. If it makes a lot of sense for you, if it makes sense for you to have it and it would be cool, the answer is going to be yes. If not, I might have you make some kind of roll, like an intelligence check, to see if you thought to pack that or something like that. Okay. Or alternatively, we can take a, I take that back. I think I'm going to take a thing called, if it makes sense for you to have it, you have it. But if you want, and like let's say everyone has, well, I don't want to overcomplicate things. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out in play. If it makes sense for you to have it, you have it. I was going to try to introduce a mechanic called like the supply die, but that's going to incorporate. That's going to overcomplicate things. So we have our characters. We've done our introductions. We have our safety tools. It is we're getting close to our first hour of play. So why don't we take our first break? Let's take a 6-minute break. Come back on the hour, and then we'll start playing in earnest. Okay. And we are back. So let us begin. The 4 of you have been recruited by Princess Viola, the clockwork princess of the country of Yanth. So you have been called. You were called together and assembled as a team to perform a service for her, and that is, she has told you of, and you've probably heard tale of, the mad wizard Mortzengersturm, who is a master of transformative magic and was once a court magician for the court of Princess Viola. Mortzengersturm had been obsessed with transformation magic, turning things into other things, particularly combining things into new things, which is kind of not really what you're supposed to use magic for in this world. He got particularly adept at it, like surprisingly quickly, and that's when Princess Viola realized that he had acquired a forbidden magical artifact, and it had liberated a magical artifact from the Royal Museum called the Whim-Wham Stone, which provides great power for transformative magic. And things came to a head when he decided that he didn't want to be a human anymore, and he transformed himself into the body of a manticore. When told that, when told that you are not supposed to do that and you're not supposed to use the power of this magical stone, he laughed maniacally and flew off into the night, taking the Whim-Wham Stone with him. Over the years, Mortzengersturm has since constructed a palace at the top of the the Crystal Mountain, the Prismatic Peak. The Prismatic Peak, by the way, is a giant mountain-sized crystal that just rises up from the earth. It's got a flat top, and Mortzengersturm has constructed a fortress at the very top. Princess Viola has asked you to Princess Viola has asked you to go to Mortzengersturm's fortress and attempt to retrieve the Whim-Wham Stone under the pretense that you are there under her authority to basically inspect the place and make sure that everything is up to code. So yeah, you are going there under royal authority. Mortzengersturm is expecting you. Although he is not expecting you to attempt to get his stone back. So your mission is to go to Mortzengersturm's castle, meet with him, and once you're inside, try to figure out where the Whim-Wham Stone is and to steal it and then get out of there without Mortzengersturm either killing you or turning you into something terrible. So if we want to go, let's just quickly go around the table, and if we could introduce your characters and tell us a little bit about your characters. I know they're pre-gens, so you've got a little bit of backstory there, but if you want to feel free to embellish as you see fit. Let's go counterclockwise around just to be different. Anya, would you tell us about Minmaximus?
Yes, Minmaximus was taken back and joined the ranks, eventually becoming okay. Minmaximus grew up as part of where Darwin worked to. Yeah. Maximus grew up in this group, in this tribe that was looking to perfect the fighting styles of the dwarves. He then met some traveling warriors and joined their ranks, eventually rising up to become Minmaximus, the mighty. And I think Minmaximus is here because he was secretly assigned by his group to steal the Whim-Wham Stone from the will-be stealers.
Oh,
nice. I will point out that Minmaximus has a magic item, the Axe of Dwarven Might. It is a +2. I'm sorry, it is a +1 two-handed battle axe, and it's got a once per day power. When wielded by a dwarf once per day, you can grow to 8 feet tall, gaining +4 to your strength, 2 temporary hit points per character level, and your axe's base damage increases to D12. The effect lasts for 1 turn, which is 10 minutes.
Okay.
Or until you decide that you don't want to be 8 feet tall anymore. Daniel, would you please introduce us to Ina Quick?
Okay, so Ina was born and grew up in another town, River Town, and she considers herself a professional thief. Every time that she goes on a mission, it's because of either the prize or the challenge of acquiring something of worth, but most of the time she makes it personal. In a way, she changes her allegiances, and then she happens to cross someone who she was dealing with. So she has crossed a lot of local thieves guilds in her hometown, 1 or 2, and she's on her way to to another place. It happened quite a bit of more than once. So she's just coming here, and she's new here, and she's what she's happy about it that she is not recognized, and she is accepting this mission as someone new just for the money.
Fantastic. And Sasha, would you introduce us to Astra?
I am playing Astra, the Space Bard. Essentially, what if a Jetsons character crash landed in Greyhawk? Her bio says, stranded on Azeroth by a space mishap, Astra is the youngest daughter of the Tsar of Shooting Stars. A skilled linguist, communicator, and musician, Astra has taken up adventuring to pass the time until her family can send another Star Chariot to rescue her.
I'll just point out that Astra has like science fiction-ish equipment, but it's more or less equivalent to like fantasy stuff. So, you know, so she's got a ray gun she's got a ray gun that basically, you know, does D8 damage. Her musical instrument is an Astro theremin. Yeah, her armor is like a personal force shield, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let you describe what they actually look like, but I'm thinking like 1930s.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking like 1930s space serial.
Absolutely. You think a ray gun do a bit more damage than a bow and arrow, but I digress.
Hey, game balance. Yeah. Anyway.
Paolo, would you Astra?
And Paolo, would you introduce us to Zabra?
Sure. I'm playing Zabra Kadabra, who was raised as the daughter of the veiled wizard of the wastes, but I've turned my back against that family legacy of reclusive evil wizardry, and so I'm off to be a thrill-seeking adventurer. But you know, I can't completely run away from my past, and I am familiar with Mortzengersturm, because before he was the court magician in Yanv, he was the apprentice of my parents, and so I really think of him as, you know, this sniveling, conniving uncle figure that sort of just
took
all the knowledge from my, yeah.
You remember him as Uncle Morty.
As Uncle Morty, yeah. And he basically like absorbed the grimoire of my parents and yeeted out of there to make his own fate. And, you know, like begrudging respect to him for that, because my parents aren't the best people in the world, but, you know, that doesn't bode well for the fate of the planet. So here I am.
Fantastic. Okay, so we are you were given transport to the base of the Prismatic Peak, also of specifically Mount Geegaw, which again is a giant. It's a mountain-sized giant crystal of like translucent crystal. And you are dropped off by a royal stage at the base of this mountain, and you're looking up at this, and this is like a sheer crystal cliff that's like at least 1,000 feet tall. You know, this road, so that you're taking this road that went there, and you know, you're dropped off, and you know, there's like, and the road basically ends in a circle, and you're dropped off, and the stage circles around, and then takes off and says, we'll be back to pick you up tomorrow. So you're standing there at the bottom. There is like a cave opening that opens up into the it's almost perfectly round. It opens up into the side of this cavern, and there is a small brass plaque that's affixed to the wall next to this cave opening. I'm going to assume one of you goes over and reads the plaque, and it just says, "Take the snail." Looking into the cavern, there is, let's see. Let me get the description. Yeah, so like looking inside, there is a looking inside this cave. It goes, about maybe 30 feet in, and it's perfectly bright in there. This crystal is pretty translucent. There is a there's like a corkscrew shaped path that leads up. It's maybe about 30 feet, like totally 30 feet wide. It's got a very very steep ramp that goes up, and at the bottom of this is the biggest snail you've ever seen. On the back of its shell is a wooden platform that has a few seats on it, and the snail is just kind of like looking at you with its antenna pointing at you. What do you do?
Well, this is amazing. We have transportations all along the way. So shall we just ride the snail?
I go over and ask how much will it be for the ride.
The snail does not answer. There is a short like wooden ladder that goes down, doesn't reach all the way to the ground, but it like goes off the platform that has these seats on the back of its shell. So it's not hard at all to climb up.
I think I would climb up, and given that it's cartoons, I'm gonna tie some ration or something into a stick and try to lead the snail.
Is everyone getting aboard the snail?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm coming up too.
Okay. So as you climb up on the snail, once all of you are there, and with Minmaximus holding basically a carrot on a stick in front of the snail, you don't feel anything move, but you can kind of sort of, you can kind of sort of see the world through the at least the wall that was closest to the cave entrance. You can kind of sort of see through it. And as you're sitting there, it just feels like the world is just turning around you.
Ooh.
As you rise, and it gives you all this just the most mild feeling of vertigo, but it feels like you're sitting perfectly still as this world as like everything is like spinning around you. And after about you seem to be making progress off the ground. Again, you can kind of sort of see it through these semi-translucent walls, and it's a disconcerting feeling, but it's not a particularly bad feeling. You don't feel like you're moving, you're just like moving up. The trip takes a little less than an hour, and eventually you get to the and again you can see the ground recess below, and you can see the sort of like the top get closer and closer and closer over time. And eventually the snail comes out of a hole at the top of the mountain. There is a small crystal like structure over it, presumably to keep rain or whatever from going down the hole. And the snail like comes up out of this this corkscrew shaped thing onto a platform, and you are now at the top of Mount Geegaw. Mount Geegaw is a giant triangular prism. You are at the top. Before you, So this will explain the image behind me. Have any of you seen Superman the movie and know Superman's Fortress of Solitude? So that is what the structure at the top looks like. It is roughly conical, but it's made of all of these like giant crystals that have come up out of the surface of this crystal at an angle. So it kind of looks like Superman's Fortress of Solitude. I am going to see. You got the prismatic peak. Where is? So if you want to look under your handouts, there is one called the prismatic peak that you should all see, and that is a. And I'm going to briefly share my screen so anyone who is watching at home can see what it looks like. So that is the snail. So yeah, the snail came out of this hole. You then climb off the snail, and there is this crystalline conical structure in front of you. I'll also point out you are the red dot on the map. Let me end this screen share.
Okay.
Looks like I never actually hit this. Looks like I never actually hit share screen, but that's okay. Sorry about that, viewers at home. So you are the red dot on the map. So you should see the. So you folks do see the. So you see the map. You are here. There's a path that leads forward to a set of doors. Growing up out of the crystal in neat little rows on either side of the path are a whole bunch of what at first glance look like sunflowers. Except as you get off of the snail, all of the sunflowers turn toward you, and you see that in their center, where you would normally have, that in the what would normally be the brown center of the sunflower, is a giant unblinking eye that's just looking at you. So the path is, it's only about 30 or 40 feet to the doors. What do you do? Oh, you also see that along the side of, there's also a path that goes along the side of this fortress that goes along to the back. But there's a big set of double doors in front.
I'm gonna, before I notice the eye, I'm gonna go throw up on the flowers, and I'm gonna yell at the at the snail. You could have warned us, and I'm gonna hug my axe that I just named Axie and ask if she's okay. Are you okay, Axie?
So as you're throwing up amongst these flowers, several of them are like look down at you, and they just kind of like shake their flowers. As you approach, you actually notice that you are not alone up there, because what you first assumed were very lifelike statues, you now realize are moving. There are two hippogriffs that are flanking the door. And again, they were sitting so still that you thought they were lifelike statues, but now that you see them, they do actually, cock their heads slightly and are just kind of looking at you curiously. These handsome hippogriffs are wearing large metal collars, and in the center of these collars are a large blue gem. And again, they're just kind of looking at you. What? And again, you're back there where I have the dot. What are you all doing?
How far away the hippogriffs from where we are?
They're probably only like 30. They're probably only about 40, 50 feet.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we should be scared because we were invited, we were
Right.
sent here, so we just tell the hippogriffs. I want to approach them. They look nice.
So I just shared another handout of the art from the adventure. So this is the entrance. So as you step forward, the hippogriffs are like looking at you. They seem rather regal, but they make no move. They make no move to attack you or anything. One thing you notice above the doors, there is another blue crystal. It's almost shaped like it's roughly rectangular. It's roughly shaped like a lozenge or a large blue gem, and it's on a small. It projects out. It's on a little. It's almost like a little crystal arm, and as you approach. So the crystal above the door glows, and a staticky blue tinted image of a leonine face who's smoking a cigarette in a long cigarette holder, wearing a monocle over its left eye. So the image says, hello there. Please, if you would direct your gaze to the crystal viewer above. I assume you look up.
Yeah.
Hello there. I am Mortzengersturm. Perhaps you have heard of me. I am widely renowned as a master of the magical arts of transformation and hybridization. Welcome to my mountain of wonders. Enter, please, Enter, please, and prepare yourselves to experience the delight and amazement of my abode. It then blinks out, and the doors just open.
Ooh.
Are the sunflowers still looking at us?
Yep. The hippogriffs are too.
Okay. So I wink at one of the sunflower. And let's go in.
I follow, but as I go, I'm taking pictures of everything with a little small disposable camera.
Oh, wow.
Well, you are the space bard. Okay, so I've just revealed. Let's see. I've just revealed Area 2, the audience chamber.
Ooh.
Do a little more reveal area here because there's some. There we go. So once you enter the room, you realize those doors didn't actually open automatically. What happened? It was actually a couple of knee-high goblins dressed in livery with a big stylized image of a winged lion rampant. Were the ones who just kind of like opened the doors. And it opens up into a large. Basically it's an audience chamber. There are two corridors that lead, one to the northwest, one to the northeast, one to the northwest. Let's see. So two goblins in the livery of second-rate design and make, depicting a manticore. Depicting a manticore rampant with a cigarette holder sticking out of its mouth. So as you enter, these two goblins each raise a straight trumpet and make a make a fanfare, but the fanfare sounds like it was produced by a junior high school marching band. A third, taller than average goblin, then marches out and stands on this dais and with a flourish opens up this scroll. The goblin has a look of sheer and utter boredom on his face. He opens up the scroll and he reads, "Welcome, willkommen, bienvenue. Prepare to be entertained and astonished by the genius of Mortzengersturm the Great. In mere moments, the great Manticore," did you see what he did there? "will be with us, and your tour will begin in earnest. Thank you for your patience." He starts to roll up the scroll, and the two goblins raise their trumpets and go, "Brr, brr, brr, brr." And lower their trumpets, and the goblin with the scroll like walks across the room and leaves through the other entrance. And after an awkward moment, the two goblins that are holding the trumpets just kind of look at each other, shrug, and they follow the first one. And you are left standing in this audience chamber, pretty much alone. What do you do? I mean, wait is a perfectly acceptable response, but if there's anything else,
well, maybe check. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I forgot one. I did forget one detail. As the goblins with the trumpets had approached this dais. Oh yeah, in the back there is a dais, and there's like a large, and there's like it's not so much chair, but it looks like a large cushion. As they came in, a banner on the back wall had dropped down, and it showed a painting of a regal-looking leonine figure with a human face, big bat wings, wearing a monocle and smoking a cigarette in a cigarette holder. It's a rather flattering painting, although you've seen better.
Maybe check out what else is in the room. If there's anything else of importance.
Not much else. Now that you see, there's a couple of benches. There's a couple of like not particularly comfortable looking wooden benches on the walls that presumably are there for like visitors to sit upon to wait for the grand entrance. There are a couple of other paintings, mostly of Mortzengersturm, or at least this. Well, you know what he looks. I mean, you know it's Mortzengersturm. There's a couple of other paintings of Mortzengersturm in various poses, hanging from the walls, and there are a couple of obviously fake plants in pots. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything else. There are those two entrances. There are those two corridors that lead off. But other than that, not a whole lot to do in here. After about 5 minutes, which probably seems like a lot longer than 5 minutes.
Sorry. While
yes.
waiting, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to even hide what I'm doing. I'm going to attune my wand of magic detection. I presume this uses up one of the charges to specifically notify me if the Whim-Wham Stone is nearby, even if it's being hidden and it's like out of sight. If it's within 30 feet of me, I'm going to get like that little notification on the wand telling me, hey, it's in the area. And I'm also being completely indiscreet about this so that if somebody was scrying on me, they'd know exactly what I was doing, as long as they had the as long as they were smart enough in the arcane arts. They, I'm not even trying to be sneaky about this.
Okay. So the wand of magic detection, expending a charge, causes magic items within 20 feet to to glow with light that only the wielder can see. And I'm going to say that the only magic that you actually detect in this room is one of the paintings of Mortzengersturm that's hanging on. Why is this not? Oh, I've got the wrong. It's hanging on this wall. Does glow.
Oh, okay.
Specifically, the eyes of the painting are what's radiating some amount of magic.
Okay.
Your best guess is it's got some kind of it's got some kind of like clairvoyance effect that's going on it, and that somebody can presumably see through the eyes of this painting.
Okay. And yeah, again, putting aside discretion, I tell everyone else that that I noticed that particular painting, and I point at it so that if someone's looking through it at that precise moment, I'm not even being subtle at all. I'm letting them know that, yeah, I'm aware that someone can see through that painting.
I'd like to go right up to it and like get my face very close to the eyes.
Okay.
Does anything about them stand out to me?
Now that you are looking at them really closely, I am just going to say that it looks like this is the only part of the painting that was painted with a particularly large amount of skill. It looks like this is the eyes of this painting were painted with like really high quality paint. Looks like there's probably some gold flecks and rare pigments that were used in just the eyes. The rest of it, you've seen artists that'll produce paintings that are like of roughly this quality for like, maybe a couple of $100 gold pieces for like, 100 gold pieces or so.
I want to try kind of swaying from one side to another and kind of seeing if the eyes follow me, They
don't actually. So it doesn't. I mean, there's clearly it's not the eyes have been cut out and someone's actually looking through them. Okay. So while you're looking at that, everyone hears. You hear of. So while you're looking at that, a voice calls out from the other side of the room, like, interested in a little Geegaw of my own, are you? Yes, that's just a little thing I use to keep an eye on who might be in my chambers. Hello. And you turn around and there is a manticore in the room, who is wearing a monocle in his left eye, and you also smell the distinct smell of cigarette smoke because he's smoking a cigarette on a long cigarette holder. Welcome to my home. I am Mortzengersturm.
Well, it's a great likeness, Morty.
Why, Zabra? I haven't seen you in forever. How? And he walks right up to you and like extends his arms as if he like or I should say he walks right up to you on all fours because he is a manticore, but he then leans back and like opens his arms as if to say, give your Uncle Morty a hug, why don't you?
I play his game. I walk over, I feign affection, but I give him a hug and I say, I see you've had some work done since you last saw you. Impressive. And I do not mean that. If he can read insincerity, like he will tell.
Well, I mean, he's being pretty fake as well. Yeah, I mean, he gives you a hug. It's, he gives you a hug. It's, it's not he gives you a hug and lets you go and says,
Mhm.
"Well, it has been a very long time, so I understand that you've been sent here by Princess Viola, looking to take a tour of the place and so I can show you the marvels that I've created." Did you enjoy my irises on the way in? I think they look great, don't you?
Well, they certainly caught our eye.
Excellent, excellent.
We are happy to be here, Mr. Manticore Stern. I think we are all waiting to see all your treasures, to show us the rest of your big shiny castle.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that Princess Viola has finally come to her senses about me. We did not part on the, shall we say, greatest of terms. She was not she did not appreciate my obvious genius. But I have such marvels to show you that I'm sure she will be rightly impressed and will once again reinstate me in my practicing of the transformative magical arts. There are so many things I'm here to show you. Come, come. He claps his hands. Let us begin. Let me, the GM, just double check which way he takes you first.
Sure.
So, first and foremost, he beckons you all to follow him through the door that leads to the northeast. And It opens up into a very large room. And let me do a quick reveal here.
Okay.
So he leads you into this. Very large round room. As you walk in, a cacophony of playful screeches and beating wings fills this cavernous domed space that serves as a rookery for Mortzengersturm's hippogriffs. So this is the Hippogriffery. Let me show you that. And as he walks into the room, he says, "Now, please turn your attentions to my pride and joy. These noble creatures have long been considered impossible animals due to the natural proclivity of griffins to, well, eat horses. Well, the impossible I consider merely a challenge on a Wednesday. Behold what my genius and hard work hath wrought." So inside here are a whole lot of hippogriffs in like large that are like roosting in large straw nests. So yeah, hippogriffs, they have the front quarters of a they have the front half of a griffin. So so an eagle head, like bird claws for forelegs. Large, they have like leonine fur, large eagle wings, but they have the hindquarters of a horse. And yeah, you see in this room, there's a good dozen hippogriffs in here. You also look up, there is an octagonal opening in the ceiling, which presumably allows the hippogriffs to fly away and fly back.
And does it appear to be open?
Oh yeah, it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So directly beneath that opening is like a large pool. It's a large raised pool. It seems to be full of what appears to be more or less clean water.
Mm-hmm.
There's a number of nests scattered across the floor, and in some of the nests are many bones of various animals. And as Mortzengersturm enters the room, most of the there's a small hush that comes over the various hippogriffs as they turn toward him, and all of the hippogriffs sort of like kneel and like flap their wings, almost as if in a show of respect.
Can I run and hug one of the baby hippogriffs?
Wish to run and hug one of the baby hippogriffs. Just like running up, like describe the scene. I want to know what that'll help me figure out what the reaction will be.
Yeah, I think I was about to ask what time is dinner served, but as he opens the doors and it's the hippogriffs, I think my cartoon eyes grow 3 times bigger. And I just run towards one of the babies, ignoring whatever Mortzengersturm it's saying, and just like pick one up. And because somebody has to say it, I will say, "Can we keep him?"
So I'm gonna say I don't want to roll here because that's just too awesome. So yeah, Minmaximus runs over, picks up a baby hippogriff who at first has an alarmed look on its face, as this burly dwarf charges at it, and I'm gonna say one of the other hippogriffs stands up and stiffens as if about to pounce on Minmaximus as you pick it up and hug it, and are surprisingly gentle with the thing, and it just kind of like nestles its head against you and goes and at that the parent just kind of like leans back a little bit, but it's keeping an eye on you. And Mortzengersturm says, "Oh, they're adorable, aren't they? No, I'm sorry, but no, they are not for sale."
I'll just look at him and I'll say, "I said, give him." No, not buying.
No, they're mine. Sorry, I'm not giving them up. I'm not giving them up. Oh, but they certainly are cute, aren't they? Yes. You see, these hippogriffs do not eat horses. Not at all, because they started out as horses. I transformed them. That way they think they are horses that can fly. That way they won't eat horses. You see? I'm just that much of a genius. Totoro as hippogriff. I love it.
Well, that's all very good, Morty, but this is an accredited zoological institute.
Accreditations. Well, I don't need accreditations because my genius is all the accreditations I need.
Not according to the International Association of Zookeepers, it doesn't. And I have to say, this whole setup here with no separated cages, all these tight corners, this is a very big safety hazard, and that could affect your valuation in the eyes of Princess Viola.
Princess Viola, what does she know? That's when you notice, and so while he's saying that, that's when you notice that there is one of the hippogriffs in this hippogriffery is definitely one of these things is not like the others, and that is in like sitting in one of the nests, looking warily about it, is clearly a horse that has a fake beak on its nose and like fake wings that are like strapped to its back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's even worse than that. It is a blanket haphazardly coated in hippogriff feathers by means of disguise.
Say, Morty, I think there's something wrong with that one.
He puts his fingers up and says, No. There's nothing wrong with that. Hippogriff.
It's a horse.
Hippogriff. He then leans in conspiratorially. Yes, I know it's a horse. You know it's a horse. The hippogriffs don't know it's a horse. I'm training them to make sure that they don't eat horses by keeping a horse here. They haven't caught on yet.
Horse doesn't seem too happy about that one, Morty.
Well, I mean, horses are naturally a little wary when they're surrounded by predators, but it's fine.
I turn to the others like, can you believe this guy? And just kind of shrug.
I admit to the Uncle Morty, I can't decide if I should be disgusted or impressed. Maybe a little bit of both.
At that point, once you've made attention to the horse just kind of like neighs and like shakes his head a little bit and is definitely looking at you. Once you pointed out that once you like the when you have raised the issue. What do you do?
I want to whisper to Minmaximus, just be. I see you have a connection with this youngling, but maybe we should be patient because there will be. I suspect there will be opportunities to take things later or creatures when we want to. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we just play to. And I turn to everyone. Maybe we just play to his rules now, and see. Make him happy for now.
As far as we can tell, the other hippogriffs seem convinced that this is not a fellow hippogriff.
They don't. The other hippogriffs don't seem to be paying this obvious horse any mind. While you're discussing that the horse like stands up from the nest it was kind of laying down in and clops over to Minmaximus, who is still clutching the baby hippogriff, and like nudges Minmaximus and like neighs. It almost sounds like he's like the horse is trying to talk. And you and Minmaximus, you clearly heard it say something in Dwarvish. It was kind of like, I mean, if you've ever watched Scooby-Doo, you know how Scooby-Doo can kind of sort of talk, but not really. He says something along the lines of Not a horse, not a horse, not really a horse. He says that in Dwarvish.
Oh, okay. As I was listening to Ina and the horse approaches, I put the hippogriff down and I whisper, "Never forget your name is Alvin." and I look back at the horse, and I think I'm gonna start examining it as I don't know if I share a language with Ina, but in case I don't, I'm just gonna try to be discreet and tell her that that the horse just told me it's not a horse.
Well, yeah, I don't think I have a lot of languages because my intelligence is
Hey folks,
12.
I need to pause briefly and go off camera because there is a delivery man knocking on my front door. I will be right back.
Okay.
And we're back. Okay, where were we? So I'm sorry, before I got interrupted by a delivery man. I think someone had just started to do something and I don't recall what it was.
Yeah, I was telling Ina that the horse just told me that it's not a horse, but discreetly.
Well, maybe those other hippogriffs are also not hippogriffs. He said he transmuted them. That means we have more work to do here than just you know what.
He transmuted hippogriffs into horses and horses into hippogriffs. He's a maniac.
Yeah.
Well, now says Mortzengersturm as and while you were talking and admiring his majesty, Mortzengersturm was going over and he was like petting the petting some of the hippogriffs and like he obviously the hippogriffs obviously like Mortzengersturm and he was definitely paying them attention and saying, like calling them cute little pet names and attempting to crack jokes with them. But of course, they're hippogriffs, so they didn't laugh. Well, says Mortzengersturm, addressing you all. Follow me. Let us go outside. I shall show you. You shall be prepared to be amazed by a collection of even more exotic creatures than my hippogriffs. He then leads you back out the way you came through the entrance hall. Do you follow? Does anyone stand behind?
I will go with him.
Follow.
I'll
follow, but I'm leaving a trail of foot in case Alvin wants to follow me.
Maybe just want to, while we're following, maybe we want to tell the others if Astra and Zabra, if they don't know that there's a dwarf transmuted into a horse. The horse is not really a horse.
You're telling me the hippogriff that's a horse that's actually a dwarf?
It's very weird. I agree.
So yeah, Mortzengersturm leads first and expects you to walks out of the room first and is expecting you to follow him. I mean, you got maybe a minute to do something in this room without being under the watchful eye of a wizard in the body of a manticore. Anything you want to do, or you're just gonna follow out?
I'll try to talk with the horse to actually talk with the horse.
Oh, okay. So the horse is looking at you pleadingly.
I ask as soon as he's gone. I ask if you are not a horse, then what are you? Who are you?
I can't really talk. Pen? Paper?
He's asking for pen and paper.
Yes, he's saying he can't really talk. He's asking for pen and paper.
I look at Zabra.
I tear out one of the pages from my grimoire, one of the blank note pages, and I leave a quill as well. I'm not even I'm doing this out in the open, so again, if someone is spying, then they're gonna see it. But otherwise, you know, I put it down casually. But also, do I know like offhand if this was involuntary polymorphing, would is this reversible? Do I know that like as stock knowledge?
Generally, if it's a polymorph spell, that is usually reversible. If it's like a normal spell, if this is some kind of like magical, like true transformation technique that's like beyond just simple spell casting, that might be much harder to reverse. Although you might actually need to use the same kind of transformation magic that caused the transformation to undo it. Whereas if just a simple polymorph spell, you could conceivably dispel that with with more traditional like dispelling. But if it was a magical transformational effect, especially if it was using some kind of weird artifact, you'd probably need to use the artifact to undo it.
Okay.
So so yeah, I think it would be more comical if someone was basically just like holding up the book, you hand them a pen, you like generally hold a pen in the general direction of the horse, trying to figure out how he's going to do it, and it takes the pen, take your pen in his mouth, and just starts writing in the book, and he just quickly scribbles, my name is and he scribbles, my name is Mansfort. My name is Mansfort. I'm a dwarf, Mansfort, dwarven warrior. A witch turned me into a horse and then sold me to Mortzengersturm. He tried to turn me into a hippogriff, but since I'm not really a horse, that didn't work, and that has been perplexing him. Please get me out of here.
While they're doing that, I just want to be distracting Mortzengersturm so he doesn't notice the rest of the retinue hasn't followed along. I'm just like, oh, what nice, like, I don't know, owl bears you have.
Oh, I have something much more interesting than owl bears, he says. At this point, you're like halfway across the entrance chamber. I am going to ask you to make a charisma check to keep his attention.
All right. I just press charisma.
Yep. Basically, you should be able to just click your charisma on your character sheet. That should come right through on. Let me just double check that.
It says threshold modifier.
You can. There's no modifier there, so you can just you just hit next.
Okay.
Okay, that was under your charisma, so you have held his attention. He does not notice that. Is there anyone? Okay, so before we go on, Astra is with Mortzengersturm, and she is distracting him. Is anyone else going with him, or is it, or the other three of you still in the Hippogriffery?
I'm still in Hippogriffery. So
yeah, me too. I think I want to check out the area around where the horse was to see if there's some stuff left from him that we can maybe take or use.
Let me take a quick look. So yeah, so in the so there are so all totaled in here, there's probably about 18 adult hippogriffs. There's 6 hatchlings, including Alvin, who seems to be the smallest. There's also 6 large eggs in nests. Poking around. Yeah, poking around, you don't really see anything else that's really of much interest. There's there's like a bag of oats on a shelf that's clearly somebody has been using to feed the horse, and the rest of it And it does not smell good in here. It smells like rotting meat. It smells like, it smells like the droppings of a predator because, hippogriffs eat meat. And while you're in there, a couple of goblins dressed in even worse finery come in, and they've got a couple of brooms, and they start like sweeping up some of the droppings. They look at you. They look at you warily.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have a ridiculous cartoony plan to get the horse out, but I want to check in with all of you. I can enlarge myself with my axe, and I will try to convince the Manticore, to convince Mortzengersturm that the horse is my dog and that my dog needs some fresh air. So I'll bring him outside, but I want to check in with you about the plan.
Go for it.
No. When you tell that to me, I say, no, I've got this. And I read the spell on my scroll of levitate. No questions asked. When I know that this is a sentient creature and he shouldn't be in here, I cast levitate on the horse and send it about through the hole in the ceiling. That you said the hole was big enough, right?
Yeah.
To get a horse through. And rules is and I quote my understanding of the spell book. When the spell ends, this target's going to float gently. This horse is going to float gently to the ground once we go away. And then dwarven warrior, I trust that even in this form, you'll be able to take care of yourself once you're beyond these walls. And so I read the words off the scroll for my one and only use, and I start sending this thing floating, and I don't care if the goblins are going to tell on me or not. And I'm doing this unilaterally. I'm not going to consult with anyone else before I do this.
I love it. Okay, so you're sending the so you levitate. So you cast the spell. Do you tell the horse what do you tell? Oh, what was his name again? Do you tell Mansford what your plan is?
I tell Mansford that don't worry, you'll survive this, and you're a warrior, you'll survive this. That's all I say, and then I read the spell because I know the time is sort of the essence here, and so it starts levitating out through the hole.
Okay, so it levitates out through the hole. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm
trying.
Yeah, it levitates.
I'm using my wand as a focus. I'm just going to sort of try and direct it beyond the walls and just hope that that
levitate really only makes you go up and down, but I'm going to say that you're able to like levitate it up.
Oh no,
you're able to levitate the horse up such that he's able to like scramble over the side, and maybe clamber down the if this is the plan that you had in mind.
Yeah.
If you can think of something cooler, that would be fine. But yeah, you levitate it up through the hole in the roof. It grabs on. It like scrambles for footing on the side of the scrambles for footing on the side, and then just kind of like scrambles down, still under the, because with a levitate you can conceivably levitate up to the ceiling and then like use your hands to like push yourself across. So I'm going to say that it's able to clamber down while still under the effect of the levitate spell, because normally this would be like normally it would be like too steep and too too uneven to like walk down. But since it's still under the effect of the levitate spell, it's able to clamber down at least to the ground floor. So now so I think what we see there's a brief, so in like the TV show, there's a brief moment of the horse like standing on the ground in the open air, like looking around, like looking around outside the fortress, with a now what look, now what look on its face.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, as the horse was going up, like two of the hippogriffs like two of the hippogriffs like look at each other and they go, "Ah, ah, ah, ah," and they look up at the horse. And the caption underneath what they're saying is like, "He finally did it! He finally learned how to fly!" Meanwhile, in the entrance, I'm going to say that the horse ended up maybe over here.
Oh wait, hold on. I'm switching back to Roll20. Okay.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah, switching back to Roll20. Yeah, I think the horse may probably clambered down and has ended up here, and that's probably about when the levitate spell ends because that doesn't last all that long.
Yeah.
So it's not like he can. I love it. Love it.
Up to 10 minutes is sorry. According to my spell book, it's up to 10 minutes.
There we go. Love it. Oh yeah, I forgot to move.
Okay.
Where you are. You were in there. So I think it's at this point where we're going to shift the scene back to Astra and Mortzengersturm as you're just about to exit the you're just about to open the door. And you know, he calls for a couple of more of his goblins in the livery to open the door, and that's when he looks over his shoulder and says, "Oh my, where did your friends I'm sure your friends have simply amazed by my hippogriffery. Let us go retrieve them." And he starts.
No. Don't worry about those dilly-dalliers. I want to see more of your palace. I love classic Kryptonian architecture.
Yes, but we can't have visitors just wandering the halls unaccompanied now, can we?
Oh, come on. I want you all to myself, big guy.
I am going to say that Mortzengersturm says this in his typical like booming voice. So you all of you in the hippogriffery, you can hear Mortzengersturm say that he's about to go back and try to retrieve you while Astra is trying to convince him otherwise. What do you do? Those of you still in the hippogriffery.
Okay. Hold on. Go ahead, everyone else, if you have other ideas.
I'll walk to the door, and I'm saying, "Yep, no shenanigans took place here. No shenanigans at all."
Okay. Because Uncle Morty, announced that he was coming back into the rookery. I've readied it so that as soon as I can see him, I'm going to cast Phantasmal Force on him so that he thinks that the horse is still inside there.
Oh, nice. Oh, so you're gonna cast an illusion of the horse still sitting in his nest.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
Fantastic.
But do I just read that and it passes, or he's going to make a save against that?
The way that this tends to work in OSE is you generally illusions look pretty real, and it's only if you directly interact with something that you can like make a saving throw to try to disbelieve.
Okay.
So if you're just if he's not expecting this horse to not be there, so if there's an illusion of this horse, he's probably not going to notice.
Okay, because sorry, just from my understanding of the spell in my grimoire, only he's going to see that horse. So if the goblins try to tell him that the horse isn't there, he's going to see the horse, but they won't know what I'm doing. Those goblins aren't going to know what I'm doing.
Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure Phantasmal Force is there. It's just an illusion. I'm pretty sure that means everyone can see that.
My understand, because here we go. Perceivable only to the target for the duration was the wording I had, but I don't know if that's the OSE wording because I'm going by 5th ed.
Oh, okay, yeah. This isn't a 5th ed. This isn't the 5th edition. This isn't 5th edition.
Okay.
So in OSE, the spell goes: a visual illusion of the caster's choosing manifests in a 20-foot cube area. Three types of illusions may be created: an illusionary monster that can be directed to attack, an illusionary attack, for example, an avalanche, falling ceiling, or a magic missile. Targets who save versus spells are unaffected. or a scene, either changing the appearance of the affected area or creating the appearance of something new.
Nice. Okay.
Concentration is required to maintain the illusion. If the caster moves, if the caster moves out of the area of effect, the spell ends. Illusionary monsters or attacks may appear to be harmful, but no real damage is ever inflicted.
Got it. Perfect. All right.
If the illusion is something that the caster is not personally seen, the referee should grant a target a bonus to any applicable saving throws because it doesn't necessarily match reality. So yeah, that's
got it.
So that's how it works in OSE.
All
so
right.
It's an actual illusion that's there. Everyone can see it, but it only lasts as long as you concentrate on it.
Cool.
And you can move. I can say you can move normal speed, but it's stuck. So once you get out of the area of effect, it'll wink out even if you continue to concentrate.
Okay. I'll take my chances with that.
Fair enough. So yeah, Mort. So I think Astra. I think despite your attempts to dissuade Mortzengersturm, he's going back to check on your friends to make sure they're not up to any shenanigans. It's like, come. We have many things to show you. Please come with me. If you would like to spend more time, and he looks at Minmaximus. If you would like to spend more time with the hatchlings, I'm sure we can arrange that later. They are adorable, aren't they?
I just nod as I am leaving my trail of food for Alvin and walk out.
Love it. So, and yeah, he doesn't notice anything. Notice anything out of the ordinary because the illusion of the hippogriff terribly disguised, the horse terribly disguised as a hippogriff is still there. And you head on out, and he leads, and the goblins open the doors, and you and he leads you around this path to some structures behind his fortress.
Ooh.
And as he leads you around this path, he says, "Prepare to be amazed. Such a collection of exotic creatures I am quite sure you have never seen before. Wonders like these were frowned upon by the narrow-minded so-called wizard establishment. They reject me and reject me still, and I, serving my own genius, must reject them. Mortzengersturm's imagination will not be fettered, as you shall soon see." And he concludes that little speech just as you get to his menagerie. So the menagerie is just, it's only just a few feet from the fortress itself. So each cage is a crystal extrusion like the mansion in general, but in miniature. So these things are, these little cages, they're only about maybe 8 feet tall, maybe 6 feet around in the middle. Again, they're roughly conical. These are also kind of open, so they're more like so it doesn't form a solid structure. They're basically like open air cages that each of them has a creature in them. The cage's sizes vary based on the size of the animal, but none of them particularly spacious. And Mortzengersturm says, like, "Behold and be amazed. You and one of you mentioned that I might have an owl bear. No, owl bears are so common. Behold." And inside the first cage is a bear that is covered in downy green feathers that has the head of a parrot. It cocks its head as you it cocks its head as you approach, and the parrot bear says in kind of a deep gruff voice, "Rot, Behold my genius.
Wow. I haven't seen a
Mortzengersturm the Great. I'm sorry, I started to speak over someone.
Wow, I haven't seen a parrot bear since I was on Gore Black 6.
Oh yes, suspended from the ceiling is like a very large, like trapeze-like perch, but the parrot bear is actually kind of it is kind of like sitting on all fours on the floor in the hay.
I'll try to talk to the parrot bear in Darwin as well. I'm not expecting it to be at Darwin, but I think it's funny.
Yeah, it's if you say the same thing at it a few times, it will more or less parrot back what you say to it, but it doesn't seem to be actually it's acting like a parrot, not like a transformed person. So in B, inside this one is a metal statue of a tree on which is perched a bird that appears to be also made of metal. Its crest and wings are sharp as knives, and it perches on the twisted limb of an angular metal tree. It's about the size of an eagle. The plaque says Iron Shrike. Yes, this is a bird that and Mortzengersturm gestures toward this one. Yes, and this is this one is basically an eagle that is made of metal. It's an excellent guard bird. An intruder would be very surprised to meet such a creature because it could literally cut a thief to ribbons.
Intruder, who would dare steal from the great Mortzengersturm, right?
Exactly. Everyone is afraid of my genius and my power. And as he says that, he gestures with his hands, and they just like crackle with like green magical energy. In the next one, the caption says Ink Dog. It appears like the messy living sketch of a fox, like clearly drawn with broad strokes. And the other thing is, it's also like, no matter what angle you look at it, it looks like it's two-dimensional. As it moves, running amid the unfurled scrolls and parchment that fall from the back of the cage and undulate across the floor, it throws off squiggles and errant marks in the air behind it, fall on the ground in drips. Yes, that is my ink dog. It is literally a dog made of ink. I think it's...
Can we keep it?
I'm sure eventually we could probably come to some sort of arrangement. For a certain amount of compensation, of course. I might be willing to part with some of my creations, if only to share my genius with the rest of the world. You then hear a roar as you look at the next cage. And inside is a giant ant, the size of a lion, with the head of a lion. Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. It does not actually roar, but it is an ant the size of a lion with a lion's head. And it opens its mouth as if to roar, and it makes the sound of... like the clicking of an ant. And as it paces, it encircles a large but still too small for it to enter anthill. My experiments with insects and animals are certainly interesting. And behold this one. And next to it is a hive as tall as a man, humming with half a dozen bees that are the size, that are buzzing with bees that are roughly the size of a cat.
Mm.
These bees have the heads, legs, and claws of bears. They buzz and growl and bow and growl and buzz, and they are always seem to be irritable. And the caption says "Bumble Bears."
These ones probably steal their own honey, don't they?
And there's two more cages. One appears to be empty. And the caption says Fey Ray. And Mortzengersturm shakes his head and says, I had created such a beautiful creature, but it ran off with a giant monkey that I also tried to create. And the largest cage, which is marked, and the largest cage back there has a fearsome-looking beast. It looks like a tiger with a flattened face and an elongated, segmented body with 6 pairs of legs.
Ooh.
The caption says, Tiger Pillar. And that one is, and Mortzengersturm points at it and says, oh yes, and that one is perhaps the most ferocious of my creatures. And I must say I'm not above setting it upon anyone who might choose to to explore places in my palace that visitors are not welcome. And then he smiles.
When do you expect it to turn into a butter tiger or a tiger fly? What would it be?
Well, I've been contemplating that, he says. And I think there's a good chance that at some point it will metamorphose into an adult form. I'm very curious as to what that might be. You know, I've wondered, would it be a tiger moth? Or perhaps a slaughter fly? I'm not entirely sure, but it'll be interesting once it happens now, won't it? Also back here, you do notice that there's a larger crystal structure. And also behind here, there is just like kind of an open pit. It's about maybe 6 feet in diameter, let's say about 10 feet in diameter. I'm sorry, it's not open. It is there's a hatch. Cartoon like submarine hatch, like semi-domed, and it's got like a wheel on top.
So Uncle Morty, what's down there?
Oh, nothing to be concerned with.
Come on, you know you want to tell us.
It's just this. There's nothing really of interest down there. That's where I keep my experiments that did not go quite according to plan. they're not really, they're not ready to be put on display quite yet. You don't want to see those.
Are there a lot of them?
Not that many. Most of my experiments are perfect. And he gestures toward the and he gestures toward the other creatures in the menagerie.
I elbow Ina to and signal her to the hatch.
Yeah, I think. Where's this hatch exactly? It's behind the.
Yeah, it's like
structure?
if you look on the map, it's labeled H. That's the hatch.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Can I maybe sneak still while the Manticore is distracted by talking about his, maybe sneak closer, a little bit closer to it and see if it opens?
Absolutely. I'm not even going to make a roll. If the rest of you are trying to distract him by fawning over Mortzengersturm, he will absolutely like bask in the adulation. So if you want to go over and check it out, absolutely. I don't think a roll is necessary, especially since you can kind of hide behind the cage.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Mortzengersturm is probably more or less where the red dot is on the map.
Okay.
Okay, so just sneak close to it and then just check if there are some kind of locks or maybe try to turn this wheel a little bit to see if it opens.
It does open. It does swing open pretty easily. It does not appear to be locked, at least not from this side. But you
okay.
You spin the wheel and it does unlock.
Yeah, I gesture to the others that it's and try to open it a little bit and have a little look inside if I can.
Yeah, if you open it up and you look down, and it's a shaft that goes down about it's a shaft that's goes down. It's so the opening is only like maybe maybe 5 or 6 feet in diameter. So it's still a pretty big door, but looking down, the pit is actually quite a bit wider than the hatch. It's probably like looking down there, it looks like it's probably maybe 25 or 30 feet wide, roughly circular. It goes down. You see there's a number of ledges down there, and you do see some movement, although it's a little dark down there. And as you open it, what you hear from down there is eerie laughter.
Wow. Okay, so I close it really, really quickly. I make facial gestures to the other that something is wrong here. I just close the shaft for now, and I go back to the others. And I tell, and if I can be discreetly whisper to the others that there's probably some bigger monster there, but maybe not what we're looking for.
Understood. So after that, Mortzengersturm says, and that concludes my tour that concludes the tour of the wonders of my palace and the incredible things that I've been creating. Oh, by the way, there is another this building that's marked 13 on the map. That is another kind of crystalline structure. It's small. It's bigger than the cages, but it's smaller. It's similar to the mansion, but it's much smaller.
Say, Morty, what's that over there?
Oh, that is my laboratory. It's not open to the public.
Oh, come on. We'd love to see how you create all these amazing things.
I'm sure you would, but trade secrets.
Well, not to, pull rank on you, but as official inspectors of Princess Viola, responsible for ensuring the safety of this facility and its inhabitants, you kind of need to see the inside of your workshop, right?
Well, perhaps we shall get to that. Come. Let's have some refreshments first. And he, and he starts walking back on the path back toward the main entrance. Do you follow?
Yeah, can we stay behind?
I can go with him again and try to butter him up while you guys try to break in.
Yeah, I think it's time to break in.
I
What is the plan, folks?
I whisper to Anya that I can turn her invisible if she wants.
No, there's no need for that. I can make myself invisible.
Okay.
A little bit overconfident, but yeah.
So I'm going to say, Astra, I'm going to ask you to make another, if you're going to try to lead Mortzengersturm and again, continue to distract him such that he doesn't notice that the rest of you aren't following him. I'm going to ask you to make another charisma check.
I'm with Astra, just to.
You're with Astra, okay.
Okay, so...
so the two of you are able to, the two of you follow Mortzengersturm back into the main palace, and he doesn't seem to notice. Again, with your fawning over him, he just kind of assumes that the others are following behind. It doesn't seem to notice that it's him with just the two of you. What are the other? So Zabra and Anya, you are still outside. What are you doing?
So maybe first check out the door of the laboratory, if we can go that way.
Okay,
sure.
You do that. I'm gonna make sure that he can't. That I'll tell you. I'm gonna take care of. I'll take care of the animals just so that he can't use them against us.
Okay. So great.
Targeting the sharp bird and the tiger pillar. I'm gonna cast sleep. I'm gonna cast sleep on each of them.
Okay.
And so that's gonna be 4d4 turns if on a success. So what is that, one roll for each of them?
Let me double check sleep. That's in player's tome. I'll just read the spell because I've
what's here in roll 20 is puts creatures to sleep, target either one creature of 4 plus 1 hit dice or 2d8 hit dice of or creatures of 4 HD or lower.
Okay. So let me double check.
Within 240 feet. So definitely.
Okay, so you're going to try to put together. So you primarily want to hit the
spiky bird and the tiger pillar.
Spiky bird and the tiger pillar. Let's see here.
And then I'd have to do a duration for each of them on a success, I imagine. 44 turns. So is it one roll for each?
Give me just a sec. I'm trying to figure out what the equivalent of a tiger pillar is going to be, because hit dice don't match perfectly well between 5e and that was one conversion. That was one I was just going to basically use the armor class. I was basically just going to use like the hit points from 5e, but hit dice don't necessarily work. directly. I'm just trying to figure out what monster I can use instead of the tiger pillar. And I've got an idea if it's got a write-up. I am just going to tell you because I'm just going to tell you because you're a wizard and you know how your spells work. Looking at the tiger pillar, you're pretty sure that that thing is too tough for something as minor as a sleep spell to affect.
Oh, okay. Oof.
That's you know, out of like that's probably a 6 hit dice creature.
Okay.
You could probably affect the Shrike.
Okay. I'll go for the Shrike then.
Okay. So that's going to be targeted on the Shrike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm checking the. Effect 5.
Yeah, what is that? Hold on. Effects or 2d8 hit dice of creatures. Oh yeah, that's I must have set that spell up incorrectly. Go ahead and roll 2d8 because that only rolled d6 plus 1 and that should have been 2d8.
Oh, okay. $11.
Okay. Perfect. So I think that's going to mean you've put to sleep.
Wait, should I roll the number of turns that it's going to be asleep for?
Maybe that's what the d6 plus 1 was. Magic user spells. Magic user spells. Oh, that's illusion of spells. I want magic user spells. Sleep does. Yeah, I don't know where that. Yeah. Go ahead and roll 4. Yeah, go ahead and roll 44. That'll be how long these creatures fall. So I'm going to say you put to sleep the Iron Shrike and all of the Bumble Bears.
Oh, okay, nice.
And they're going to be out for like 2 hours.
Cool.
12 turns is 2 hours.
Unscheduled hibernation. I guess that whoever's out there with me would have heard that, like, you know, the activity suddenly stop as they start, I guess, snoring or just not making the same noise they were before. But
yeah, so the Iron Shrike, you cast that on it, and it just kind of like puts its head down and like tucks its head under its wing, and it's clearly it's clearly sleeping. And the Bumble Bears, the ones that were buzzing around, they just kind of like flutter to the ground, and they just kind of like they just kind of like curl up.
Okay.
And they just start sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're no longer buzzing and growling and buzzing.
Okay.
Inna, you are at this door in front of this crystalline crystalline outbuilding. I'm just gonna tell you the door is locked. I mean, if you try the door, it's locked.
Is there an obvious lock that I can try to pick? Or
yes and no. You think it's a magical lock, but open lock will work. And I'll ask you how you I will ask you to describe how you attempt to go about this.
what is the door made of? It's
So the door itself is made of metal, but it's set into this. It's kind of like the front doors of this place. The door is made of metal, but it's set into this crystalline structure. The door is pretty, even though the walls are like go up at an angle, the door itself is pretty much straight vertical. So it's set in.
Okay, so
So I mean, you know, the mechanics are the mechanics. That would be an open locks. That would be an open lock roll. But I'm like go ahead and describe what it looks like.
I think, yeah. If there's some kind of magic, I'm imagining that there's no keyhole or something like that. So part of my lockpicking tool set, I have a couple of small hammers, which I put my ear to the door, and then I try to guess the place of the things that go into the lock. So I just first I hammer them a little. I do a little sound check to see when they are, and when I find the right place, I take a big hammer. I pull out a big hammer that is, if this is a cartoon, that the hammer is larger than the sack that it's in, so that I put a big one, and then when I find the exact spot, then I strike the spot.
Awesome. Go ahead and make an open locks roll. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
So you should be able to just click. You should be able to click the die next to the open locks.
Yeah.
Under abilities, and it should roll. And you want to get
35%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to get 35 or less, and that's a no.
Okay.
So what does it look like when this doesn't work?
I'm sorry. There is a big sound, like a big gong, bang, and yeah.
I'm imagining like your arm vibrates.
Yeah, my arm. First my arm, and then my whole body starts to vibrate. It goes through the arm and then the body. Yeah, I slowly put I quickly put the hammer back inside the bag. So it's we have to find another way, I guess. And the only way that I know is through the shaft. Zabra, are you coming with me?
Yeah, I am. I'll follow your lead.
Okay, so yeah, I open the shaft, and then I just try to go inside, and I'm just guessing that there's another way, and I'm not sure.
Okay, so you're opening the shaft. So I think we're going to do. So you open the shaft and you look down, and again, it's pretty dark in there. You can't really. I'm going to see that you see a pair of like yellow eyes with like cat-like pupils looking up at you, like just glinting in the dark. And again, you hear. You go in?
Yeah.
Now, there's no ladder or stairs. This is like a shaft that goes down into the darkness. Are you going to jump? Are you going to try to climb the wall? Are you going to try to tie a rope to something?
Yeah, maybe try to tie the rope. But before that, I'll probably, if I have a torch, I guess I have one.
Sure.
Then I light the torch and I throw it in to maybe see better.
Oh, okay, cool. Sure. You light the torch. You drop it down, and I think the camera. You see the torch go down, and as it goes down, it passes that it passes a ledge. And so for just a brief instant, you see what was looking up at you at that ledge. The ledge is about 10 feet below the, it's only about 10 feet below where you're standing. And it's a snake creature that was looking up at you. But the snake creature has a bright red nose and like a wig of like bright red hair, and its face is painted white with like garish makeup.
Yeah.
And it looks up and it looks up, and that's the thing that was going and the torch goes by it, and it's like it's all in shadows again.
Yeah.
The torch lands at the bottom, and you can see it's about 70 feet deep.
70 feet.
And yeah, it's about 70 feet deep, and you from a voice below that comes up from deeper from where that like clown snake thing was. you hear a voice that goes, "The adventurers, in their attempt to probe the pit, drop a torch down into it, and revealing the frightening face of a strange clown snake creature, and also the eerie voice that's narrating exactly what is happening. The pit appears to be 70 feet deep. A look of concern crosses the face of the human thief as she looks down into the pit. And now she's pondering what her next move might be, as the camera then switches to what the rest of the party is doing."
Brilliant.
Inside, and so the rest of you are with Mortzengersturm as you enter the audience chamber. He is now taking the other path, and let me do a quick reveal. Polygon reveal. There we go. So he takes you down a corridor that passes two doors that he does not open, to a set of double doors, and that's when he realizes that he like, "The two of your friends appear to be missing. Where do you think they might have gone to?"
Bathroom.
Oh, yes, of course. He claps his hands and like and then like two and then a voice behind you says, "Yes, boss." And you turn around, and there's a pair of goblins that apparently been here the whole time, that are behind you. And Mortzengersturm says, yes. Go find the rest of our guests, and please show them in here. Come. He opens the double doors into a just do one quick thing here. I forgot to do something. Let me just do a quick switch to a different layer of the map. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to move the dot to where the other characters are, like, "Please come into my inner sanctum. I've had my I've had my staff prepare some refreshments for everybody. It would be a shame if your friends just chose not to join us after all.
Well, as you saw in the garden, some of us didn't really take to the snail ride, and I kind of gesture my head over to Minmaximus, who puked on the flowers.
Oh yeah, there's that.
I'm sure they'll be here any second now. Don't worry about them.
Oh, and I just realized I don't think I ever showed you the portrait of Mortzengersturm himself. And it's just from the cover. And yes, he does. Yes, he does have. And I forgot to mention he has a handlebar mustache. So as you enter his inner sanctum, there is a large banquet table which has been set in that it's this two-lobed, roughly circular room. In that first room, it's about it's a decent sized room. It's maybe 30 feet by 40 feet. And there's a large banquet table that's been set up in there. The centerpiece of this table is a scale model of what looks like a park, and there's a little plaque by the model of the park which says an Imaginarium experience, and he gestures to that and says, "Yes, I am planning to do some expansions and to turn this into an actual experience and tourist attraction that we can bring people in from the land around to behold my brilliance." Also on the table is a large let's see. However, as you're looking at this model, you notice that it's kind of covered with a layer of dust and grime, such that, maybe these were like big plans that he had in some point in the past, and it's kind of just backburnered and backburnered and backburnered. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot of progress made. And yes, and there's a couple of goblins in here, also in the finery. One of which is wearing like a chef's toque. And there's refreshments. There's there's a bottle of wine and some glass. There's a couple of bottles of wine and some glasses. There's some sandwiches. There's some canapes. There's some like kind of light refreshments. And says, "Please enjoy yourself. And hopefully your friends will be here shortly." And we're going to cut back to the other characters that are looking down the pit. What are you doing?
Well, I have an idea. So we take around 70 feet of rope, maybe a little bit less, and tie to the hatch. And then we sort of bungee jump inside, so that we fly by the snake, so that it cannot, the clown snake, that it cannot attack us, and then we just go down to the bottom, and okay. there probably will be a way to the laboratory.
Got it.
What can go wrong, right?
Right. Okay, so I'm going to say you basically you belay pretty quickly past it.
Yeah. So maybe, but also maybe try to when we pull the rope from under, to close the hatch so that no one finds out where we are.
Are you going to close you're going to close the hatch behind you?
Yeah.
I will make one note that you will have noticed when you open the hatch. It does not have a handle on the inside, and it looks like it it looks like it will like click shut when you. It's not so much locked as it doesn't have a handle to open it from this direction.
Yeah. But I actually like it like that because it's what can go wrong? We can find our way. We're going to the laboratory anyway, and there has to be a way. And we will get out through the main door of the laboratory because it's sure to be unlocked outside. What do you say, Zabra?
Yeah.
It's a perfect plan.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And yeah, I assume I assume that you're bringing some kind of light source with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Torch.
Okay. So as you go down, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You pass 5 shelves like that are like built into the sides of the shaft as you go by. And the first one you pass is that snake with a clown's head that's just kind of laughing and is kind of like swaying back and forth as it laughs. It doesn't make any move to attack you. It's just kind of there. You go past another shaft and there's like a sphere of darkness in one corner that your torchlight does not penetrate.
Okay.
You go down further and there is you just kind of hear this like weird gibbering, and there's a kind of a weird thing on this shelf that is like shifting into different shapes. It like takes the form of like one weirdly deformed creature, and then it kind of like melts in and turns into something else. So it vaguely looks like a lizard, and then it melts away and vaguely looks like an insect and melts away and vaguely looks like a serpent. And it's kind of like a swirling, churning cloud of goo that never quite looks like the same creature twice. You pass another one that it just looks like it's a glob of jelly that's kind of like swirling around. Then you pass. And as you're going down, you hear as you are belaying down, that voice from the bottom continues to say, and as our creature and as our protagonists belay down into the pit, they are experiencing many of these strange creatures that have been stowed down here by their erstwhile host. A snake with the head of a clown, that's not disturbing in the least, and a sphere of darkness, and a protoplasmic something or other, a slime, your humble narrator, and what is narrating as you go by is it looks like a roughly spherical rock that's just kind of like floating over the ground. It's got an uneven surface that is that's got like craters and ridges and a big smiling face. It really does look like the man in like a cartoon of the Man in the Moon, and that's what's narrating. Your humble narrator, that would be me, he says, and as you go by, it just kind of like it smiles more and raises one eyebrow. And to the bottom of the pit, which is covered in bones.
Whoa. Okay, so we wait with the narrator when we pass him by.
And as you're doing this, whatever you do in this kind of like whatever you do, this moon narrator thing is basically narrating whatever it is you do.
Okay.
It just kind of goes on and on and on in this deep, like David Attenborough-ish but smarmier narration.
Okay. So what do we do now?
And one thing that you do find at the bottom of the cave, and amidst all of the bones, is a blue wizard's cap it's actually on top of a skull, but it's a blue wizard's cap with like yellow stars and moons. But yeah, you're now at the bottom of the pit. It's well lit because there's the torch that you dropped earlier down here.
Yep.
What do you do?
I recognize the wizard's cap as belonging to a particular like arcane school or even a specific caster?
It's well, there's it is the kind of wizard's cap that actually it's actually the wizards the Arcanum College, which was the group of wizards that Mortzengersturm was railing against earlier. Many of them wear hats more or less like this. Some of these hats are sometimes infused with power.
Okay.
You don't know of any particular wizards that wear a hat that looks exactly like this, but it's not atypical.
Okay.
No, like collegium wizards would wear a hat like this. And as you are pondering it, the narrator says, and our local magic user contemplates whether or not this hat may contain some sort of vestiges of mystical power. I think we're going to cut over, and I think at that, I think we're going to cut over to the other group. So yeah, the two of you are in Mortzengersturm's inner sanctum. You are being offered some refreshments. And it's been a couple of minutes since your host sent his goblin retainers out to find the rest of your party. And Mortzengersturm seems to be getting a little annoyed, and his pretense of being a gracious host is starting to fall away. And says, "So, you wouldn't happen to know where your companions are, would they? They shouldn't be poking their noses into places where they have not been invited. Now, do you think they're doing that sort of thing?" Raises one eyebrow at the two of you.
Oh no, of course not. They're professionals, Morty. They're just got a little bit sidetracked, maybe lost. I'm sure your boys will get them anyway. But I have to say, I've been really impressed with your whole operation here. And I've gestured to the scale model, incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'm surprised no one snapped this up already.
Well, he's definitely enjoying the flattery, and he relaxes a bit. He then starts going on. He then starts like he then kind of like from out of like nowhere produces like a long wooden pointer like elementary school teachers of old used to use to like point at maps. And he then uses that. He then starts like pointing at this model and starts like explaining what the various attractions of Mortzengersturm's Imaginarium would be. He then gestures at the refreshments and says, "Please, help yourselves. My chefs don't look like much, but they are very talented." And at that, the goblin wearing the chef's toque just kind of like shoots Mortzengersturm kind of like furrows his brow at being told that he isn't particularly good looking, but
I want to get 2 glasses of wine, fill them to the brim, give one as Mortzengersturm, and just kind of perch on the table. It's like, you know who would absolutely love this? my father, the Tsar of Stars. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Your father is the Tsar of shooting stars? My, that what? So what brings you to this realm? He then trails off. I will have to ask. Do either of you like partake of the refreshments?
Yes, I take a plate full of whatever seems most expensive, and as I'm eating and browsing around in the room.
Okay. I just want to see what else is going on in here. So other things that are in this room are so like in the center of the larger room, kind of like off, like a little off center of the larger room, there is a large there's like basically it's a giant pillow, and that's clearly where Mortzengersturm, that's clearly his bed. There are a number of bookshelves and tables and whatnot in this room. And behind the bed on a shelf, and behind the bed on an ornate like mahogany table, it's not a particularly big table, but it's this ornate round table. There sits there's a bell jar that's set over it, and underneath the bell jar is it's like a small metal plinth, and sitting on top of the plinth is a blue gemstone that's glowing ever so slightly. And then you just kind of notice this as you're just kind of like wandering around.
I'm guessing that's the Whim-Wham Stone.
Perhaps. But Minmaximus, you said you started eating the refreshments.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to please make a save versus poison.
Save versus poison.
So yeah, on your character sheet.
Death poison.
Yeah. So go ahead and click that. That should make a roll. Ah, yes. These these refreshments, these are delicious. The bacon wrapped scallops, particularly. How we got fresh scallops way the heck in here? Hard to say. Those are just they are legitimately delicious.
Astra, you should get in on this. They are really good. I look at the chefs.
But your dwarven constitution. Your dwarven constitution is such that you're not even noticing what else is going on here.
I just wave at the chef like these are great.
Yeah, just 1 second, darling. And I am drinking the wine if that's poison.
You're drinking the wine? Okay, I'm going to ask you to also please make a saving throw versus poison.
Uh-oh.
Go alien constitution.
Ooh. Natural 1. Yay. So Astra, as you are like talking with Mortzengersturm and drinking the wine, and Mortzengersturm himself is also drinking wine from the glass you poured him. You'd like the words he's saying are starting to like echo a little bit, and you're starting to feel a little off, a little sleepy. That's when you realize that your emotions are. You're starting to realize like what was like. I only had one glass of wine. This was, and that's when you realize that you think you may have been poisoned. And I'm going to ask you to make one more saving throw versus poison. This is going to be basically right now you are under the effect of a poison that's basically it's knockout drops. If you fail your second saving throw, you're going to lose consciousness. If you remain conscious, you're basically just going to be like, you're going to be up and about, but you're going to be minus on you're going to have a penalty on your ability scores for a bit.
Oof. Oof.
Double one. Oh,
wow.
Man.
Rip.
What does it look like when Astra loses consciousness?
Yeah, I think she's kind of swaying side to side. You know, the three little cartoon birds are flying over her head. And as she passes out, she's like, "My father will hear about this."
So Astra keels over. Mortzengersturm, again with this look of complete nonchalance as Astra falls over, finishes his glass of wine, sets it on the counter, and looks at Minmaximus and says, and just shakes his head and said, "Dwarven constitution. You should be out cold as well. Well, there's more than one way to skin a dwarf." And he and he begins to cast a spell. Meanwhile, in the pit.
Okay, following on the prompt from the narrator Moon, I actually start sort of performing just to try and get the Moon to describe what I'm doing. And so I sort of, with a flourish, I point my wand in the direction of the hat and try to see what glows. I mean, to me anyway. I assume no one else is going to see the glow, if any.
Nope. Yeah. Only the holder of the wand sees the glow when you're using it to detect magic. It is magical.
Ooh, okay.
It is magical.
How far away is it?
I'm sorry. What did you ask?
How far away is it?
It's just a couple of feet away from you. I mean, you could reach down and pick it up if you want.
Okay, I'm gonna pick it up.
You are holding a hat. One thing about this hat, it does feel heavier than you would expect. And I'm going to ask you to make an intelligence check.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to retcon what I just said because I think it would be funnier.
Okay.
You pick up the hat and it's heavier than you first expected. Because when you pick it up, the skull that it was sitting atop of comes up with it. And you look at it funny, and just as you look at, that's when the skull drops off. And it rolls away, but it rolls in such a way that when it stops rolling, it's like empty eye sockets are looking right at you.
Ooh.
And go ahead and make that intelligence. You
Sure.
should be able to just click on your intelligence. It should roll.
Success.
Oh, okay. It may be this hat may be magical, but it's not magical in a good way.
Okay. So I'm gonna take a chance because I know that this could be important to me down the line. I'm gonna take it with me, and I'm just gonna be wary of that I could fall under it, that's under its influence. So I'm basically aware that this is a malignant object, but potentially cursed. But I'm going to take it with me anyway because, you know, my curiosity it trumps my morals in this case.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What are you doing down here?
I'm just holding my torch and looking around for a way out, for a door maybe, mumbling to myself, whose stupid plan was this? So dark here.
So at the bottom of the you're standing at the bottom of the pit and you're still hearing that. You're still hearing the narration, and you're also still hearing the evil cackling laughter of that of the what was that called? It's called a maka, which is a cross between a naga and a clown. It's still like laughing that mocking laughter up there. And the narrator says, as our professional adventurer looks around for a possible escape route, she discovers the magical portal that is tacked to the wall. But what is this strange portal, she asks herself, for it appears to be merely a door, for it appears to be a piece of paper with a door painted upon it. Is it a magical portal, or is it something else entirely? And sure enough, as the narrator was describing, just as you were doing this, tacked to the wall is a piece of paper on which is painted a very realistic looking picture of a door.
Okay, so yeah, this is the only way. I try to open it, to maybe hold this door and open it in a way.
Yeah, it's funny. You like reach to touch the picture of the doorknob, and it's a doorknob. You turn the doorknob, and the door opens.
Ooh.
Okay, so I peek inside to see what's behind.
The door opens into basically a short passage.
Okay, shall we go?
I follow through as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's a passage. It's going it's heading. It's a passage. Like looking like you shine your torch down there.
Yeah.
It goes for as far as your torch illuminates. It seems to be sloping ever so slightly downward.
Downward. Interesting. Okay, we follow the passage.
Yep. Before we follow the passage, I'm going to take a chance here. I'm going to cast.
I just want to retcon from where you are. The passage slopes slightly upward.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Before we head up the slope, I cast hold portal on the door that we just came from, so that nothing can follow us out from it. And I'm just going to strike that out from my spell scroll inventory.
Okay, cool.
Wait, let me just see if there's supposed to be a time that 2d6 turns. So I'm just going to roll for that.
Go ahead.
Okay, 7 turns. That door is going to stay shut.
Okay. So I'm looking at the time here. We've got about half an hour left to play. Well, we've got like 35 minutes left to play. I need to take a short break. So here's what I'm going to pose. I need to step away for a moment. Let's take a 5-minute. Let's take a short break, like a 3-minute break. Let's come back at 1:30. We'll go another maybe 20 minutes. And then we'll have a 10-minute debrief. I'll do some hard frame. I don't think we're going to conclude, but I think we're going to come to some. I think we'll come to like a couple of interesting cliffhangers, and you know, like always leave them wanting more. I don't know if we'll ever come back to this game, but we'll end in an interesting place and we'll have a debrief. Sound good?
All good.
Awesome.
Sure.
So let's come back at
Excellent.
1:30.
Sure.
Okay. So we are back. So Minmaximus. Looks like Mortzengersturm is looking at you with an absolutely predatory look. All of his genteel pretense has dripped away, and you definitely feel like this is a monster sizing up its prey right now. You are alone with the boss. You are alone with the boss. I'm going to ask what you do. It looks like Mortzengersturm is going to try to cast a spell, but I'm going to ask what you do, and then we're gonna roll initiative and see what happens.
I'm gonna enlarge myself to begin with, and supposing I'm next to the shelf that you mentioned with this stone.
Yep.
I was going to enlarge myself originally because I wanted my body to be tall enough to hide the fact that I'm gonna reach for the stone. But I'm now doing it because of that, because I don't want to die right now.
So basically, you want to try to like take the stone hostage or something, or use it as a bargaining chip to get out of here, or anyway.
Yeah, to what's the word, to hide the fact that I'm reaching for the stone. Because
okay. You want to try to steal it without drawing attention to yourself.
Yeah.
That you are stealing it.
Otherwise, I'll probably be reaching up, and like this, I'm just gonna.
Okay, awesome. So, I guess let's roll initiative, and the way initiative works is basically roll a d6, and whoever rolls high goes first.
D6.
You win. So that's what you're doing. You're using your axe to like get big, and while you're getting big, you're hoping that's going to distract Mortzengersturm while you try to grab the stone.
Yes.
I think that's going to be a dexterity check.
Sure. Dexterity. Almost.
I'm going to toss that to you. So what is your dexterity score?
12.
Okay, you only missed by 1. I am going to let you tell me. I'm going to let you tell me how you have the stone, but I'm going to let you tell me how Mortzengersturm knows you have the stone.
Okay, I think I put my arm behind my back, try to grab at the stone, but I always forget how big I really am, so I end up like knocking everything over in and things roll, and it's clear that there's no stone among the things that
got it. I like it. You tried to pull the bell jar up, and you tried to grab the stone. You got the stone, but you knocked the plinth. You knocked the plinth over, and when you tried to like grab the plinth knocked into the bell jar, and the bell jar like fell out of your hand. They both rolled off. The bell jar rolls off the table. You go to grab the bell jar just as it hits the floor and smashes. And in your attempt to do that, you knock over the table. But you have the stone.
Yes.
I love it. Is this spell in OSE? Yes. Okay. So as you do that, Mortzengersturm is actually casting a spell. He mutters, he like gestures, there's like glowing magical energy around his hands and around him. And he then says, my dear Minmaximus, you know that stone doesn't belong to you. Please hand it over. And as those words come out of his mouth, and I think the way the viewers at home see this is as those words, like specifically the words, please hand it over, actually come out of his mouth like in actual words that are like drifting across the room and like hit you. He casts a suggestion spell at you. Okay. Please make a saving throw versus spells. If you fail the saving throw, you comply with the command.
No.
Natural 1.
No. It was 50-50. I have a 10. But I rolled a 1, of course.
I think what we see is when we zoom into Minmaximus's face, we see that his pupils are now like swirling or like swirling. And then we step back, and I think we see Minmaximus we see like the animation like leave his face, and he starts to hold the stone up. Meanwhile, back in the pit. So the two of you you're heading down. So Zabra has cast a hold portal on the door, and the two of you walk down the corridor. There's another, and it's only about 50 feet. It ends in a door. Do you open the door? I think we're getting close to the end, so I think I'm just going to hard frame it.
Yeah,
you open the door, and you step into a rather well-appointed, well-appointed, very comfortable, but ostentatiously decorated parlor. It's got like red velvet wallpaper. It's got a thick plush carpet. All of the furniture is like Victorian Rococo. There's a crystal candelabra hanging from the ceiling with like several candles burning. Bookshelves. Just a kind of a like a big there's like a big mantle with like a big mantle clock on it, and across from the door is a divan, and kind of laying back on the divan is a very strikingly handsome looking older woman with like pallid white skin, bright red lips, bright red lips. She's wearing a somewhat revealing dress. And she looks up and she was like reading a book, and she had like a glass of red wine in her other hand. And when the door opens, she looks up and she says, my, I don't get visitors too often. And and she looks at both of you up and down and says, don't the both of you look just delicious? Come on in. Come on in. And I will, and let me show Thedabara to the party.
Oh.
Come in. Now I take it that the two of you were visitors toward Mr. Mortzengersturm's Little Imaginarium, eh? Well, I rent this space from him. Come on in, come on in. I'm sure we've got a whole lot to talk about. And the two of you step in, and she gestures at the door, and it just closes behind you. And I think this might be a good scene to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do any of you, or do either of you want to like throw a little stinger in here? Because because I'll just tell you. So the fight with how I was expecting this to go was all of you were going to follow Mortzengersturm back to his chambers. He was going to try to drug you, and then we were going to basically have like a big boss fight. That's how I was expecting this. I was not expecting to split the party. But you know, we're here now, so we've got Minmaximus is basically facing off against Mortzengersturm alone, and if this and in a toe-to-toe fight, if anyone was going to succeed against Mortzengersturm in this party, it would be Minmaximus on a one-on-one fight. I think he's the only one that actually has a chance on a one-on-one fight. But it's going to be a tough fight because he's like a 9th level magic user in addition to being a Manticore. The two of you have now met Thedabara, who is a like basically if anyone has seen Sunset Boulevard, she's basically the character
Norma Desmond.
She's basically Norma Desmond.
Yeah.
Who is going to basically try to who's basically going to try to hold you in conversation for as long as you deign to keep talking to her before she tries to kill you because she's a vampire.
Brilliant.
And it is possible to talk your way past her, but I'm sorry, Anya, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that then I would just try to pick up Astra, try to pick up some more food, but not for me, but try to wake up Astra with the smell and make a run for it. That will be like the close.
So I think we're going to end. So I think Thedabara beckons Zabra and into her inner chamber, magically closes the door behind her and says, I think we might have some interesting things to talk about. That door closes. Meanwhile, back into Mortzengersturm's chamber, I think what happens is, so Minmaximus is enchanted to hand over the Whim-Wham Stone to Mortzengersturm. But as soon as that happens, he gets his faculty back. He gets his faculties back, and I'm going to say, still 8 feet tall. He picks up Astra in a fireman's carry and runs for the door. Slams it behind him as Mortzengersturm doesn't make any attempt to chase you until you're at the door. That's when he smiles, looks right into the camera and says, "Oh, I do love a good chase scene, don't you?" Then his face just turns completely feral and becomes that of basically a lion, but a lion with a cigarette holder hanging out of his mouth, wearing a monocle in his left eye, and he just pounces and knocks his own door down and starts and runs after you. And I think that's where we're going to end it. Thank you, folks. This was a hoot. I've never run this adventure before, but this was super fun. This is definitely much more of a role play adventure than there was going to. I was expecting there to be a fight at the end, just so we could do some actual fighting. Didn't quite turn out the way I was expecting. It was so if you were in some ways, this is very much like an old school module in that engaging the combat rules is dangerous, and a lot of times you kind of don't want to. You want to try to avoid combat as much as possible. So in that sense, I think it worked out pretty well. People were using their abilities. People were using their, people were using the environment. The way this module is structured, yeah, Mortzengersturm, basically he gives you a tour of most of his dungeon first, and then the fight starts happening. And there's some rules in there on how to basically turn this into a cat and mouse game where you are supposed to be kind of outclassed by him. So he kind of chases you around his lair for a while because he enjoys the chase. We're not going to get to see the end of it, but that's how the module is supposed to go. I definitely recommend it. It's a fun module. Mortzengersturm was so much fun to play. He was a super fun character to play. But yeah, looks like we've got about looks like we got about 12 minutes left. I'd like to do a little debrief exercise called Stars and Wishes, but I prefer to do that off camera so that people are a little more free to speak their mind without strangers on the internet conceivably like seeing what you're up to, like seeing what you say. So I think I'm going to end this adventure. I think I'm going to end the recording here. So anyone who is watching, thank you for watching, and hope to see you around later.